Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Fern Chronicles podcast. How are you doing, friends? Back again. Just like to reiterate, this is a very regular podcast. I'm uploading to YouTube as well as Apple Podcasts. I hope to become a part of your daily lives, driving to work, eating breakfast, working out. I'd love to take over your ears for a little while, so any support is absolutely appreciated. And I wanted to go ahead and jump right in. This is a topic that I've been actually looking forward to. So I'm actually in the process of being brought on as a local volunteer firefighter. And one of the things that I was the most kind of unsure about, perhaps maybe a little bit more uneasy about, a little nervous about, was the Firefighter CPAT, which is the Candidate Physical Aptitude Test, which basically means you have to be able to complete this task in order to become a firefighter. If you're physically unable to, if you can't meet the requirements, then you're simply not allowed to join. So you could have all of the experience, all of the knowledge, all of the expertise and motivation, and be totally ready in all other ways to join your local firefighter crew. But, it's one of those things, it's a checkbox. You can either pass and have a great experience and have that, just be one more thing that you've accomplished, or you can attempt and fail the test and just simply be taken off of the roster from your future career or volunteer opportunity. So it is something that you have to do. I have not seen a fire bureau that allows candidates to proceed without passing the CPAT. There may or may not be a requirement depending on your local fire academy, but it really just depends. I would say definitely be prepared because, like I said, every fire academy I've seen requires the CPAT to be passed in order to just proceed in the hiring process. Before your interviews, before your tests, before anything, you have to be able to, it's just kind of a screening. You have to pass it. So basically what the CPAT is sort of a simulated level of activity that you would see during a fire. So to start out, the very first thing you have to do is you wear a weighted vest. Okay, so you have a vest on that has these very heavy steel plates. The vest itself weighs about 50 pounds, so it adds 50 pounds to your body weight. And then you have these shoulder pads that you put on. They Velcro right over top of your shoulders, which is an extra 25 pounds. So to start, you're wearing 75 pounds plus your body weight. So if you weigh, 100 pounds, you're taking the test at 175 pounds. So it's a pretty heavy weight. It's one of those things you can probably easily squat. If you're at the squat rack, you can almost certainly squat more than that. But the fact that you're wearing this throughout the activity makes it a little bit more strenuous. So to start off, you are wearing all the weight. You have a helmet on, long pants, and sneakers, and you are going to be walking basically a stairmaster, where it's just kind of like a rotating set of stairs. You're just going upstairs roughly one step per second. It's not a super fast pace test. This is all about just being able to kind of carry that endurance, the muscular and cardio endurance there. So you're going to be doing that for about 5 minutes. Once you're done, you're immediately asked to step off the stairmaster there. The instructors will remove those 25 pounds from your shoulders, but what you have is the vest still. So you're stuck with the vest, which is still 50 pounds on its own, and you'll have that on for the remainder of the test here. So just to recap, 75 pounds at the beginning, down to 50 pounds off of the Stairmaster. So that's used to basically just kind of exhaust you a little bit and get you warmed up, but mostly just to kind of test you, right? So it does take some mental resolve if you're not used to endurance type activities or workouts. So something to prepare for there. From there, you are going to have to walk around a few cones, and then you grab a hose, throw it over your shoulder, and you're required to make a quick sprint, and then you'll walk forward into this box where you have to then pull the hose the remainder of the way to a designated point. And of course, being able to see this in person will make a little bit more sense, and your instructors will help you along the way. But you have to pull the hose, all the way across the line. There's this little marking on the hose, and after you've pulled the marking across the line that you've just run to with the start of the hose, you're done with that section. From there, you have to get up and carry, usually it's a couple of chainsaws that weigh about 45 pounds each, so that's 45 in each hand. And that can vary. This test can vary a little bit from department to department. But it's literally one activity after the other. So we have the Stairmaster, we have the hose drag and sprint, and it's the only time where you're able to actually run. Every other time throughout the test, you are required to basically walk at a brisk pace, just so you don't trip. It's kind of a safety thing, but you can run while pulling the hose because it's something that you will be doing out in the field. Pull the hose across. We have to carry these, the chainsaws around a cone, which doesn't sound like a lot, but after you've done everything so far, it does wear down on you. So it's just take those deep breaths, really exhale to get all that carbon dioxide out of your lungs, replace it with oxygen, just keep the energy coming in. Pace yourself. It's very, very important. From here, you'll be directed to go through this tunnel, which is completely blacked out. You go through this basically wooden tunnel with obstacles inside. It's 100% dark. Once you're inside, they close you in, and you have to go through and come out the other side after navigating through the tunnels. It's kind of a horseshoe shape with obstacles inside, and that's basically to test your ability to navigate without seeing, and of course your, if you're claustrophobic, to be blunt, it's just not the career or the volunteer opportunity for you. You have to be able to conquer this without actually, having any claustrophobia, or at least being able to manage it. A lot of this career is just managing your fears and your phobias, your stress. And once you get through there, you're able to go ahead and pick up I believe it's a 10-pound sledgehammer, and you have to basically hit this pressure plate enough times so that it activates a bell. For this section, I would recommend highly not to completely slam the sledgehammer as hard as you can, because trust me, you're going to be tired at this point. Your heart rate's up, your breathing's heavy, your arms feel heavy because you have all this weight on you after you've crawled through everything. So take it easy, build the momentum, take long swings, kind of choke up on the handle a little bit and really give this thing a good smack without going all out. Take your time. Once the buzzer rings, you're going to be advised from here to go ahead and pull a ladder up to the ceiling. Basically, it's an extendable ladder. Really going to work your shoulders and your lats, your back on this one. You basically have to pull it up and then bring it back down. And then finally, you have a pick where you are going to have this kind of simulated structure where it's kind of simulating poking holes through a ceiling or pulling some ceiling tiles down, which is the end. You have to do 5 repeated sections on a pushing interval and then on a pulling interval as well. Again, I would recommend maybe YouTubing a video of the full series of events, so you can kind of visualize it a little bit better. But that's basically the gist of it, and you have a time limit. And if you drop any equipment or you skip anything, it's a fail. And that's literally what it is. You don't get a score. It's a pass or a fail. So you have to make sure you do everything. You have to follow the rules. You can't go outside of the lines. You can't drop anything. All that will disqualify you. So that's kind of what you're up against, and honestly, it's totally attainable. You don't have to be a super athlete. You just have to be prepared mentally. I think for me was the hardest thing, because I don't consider myself a super athlete, but I am in good shape. I do lift weights regularly, but I wasn't super ready for the long time that it would take in terms of not getting a break in between. I know most people especially guys, who are lifting weights, they lift heavy, a few sets of, 10 to 12 reps, and then, a minute of break in between. So you're doing a lot of energy and then a rest, and then a lot of energy and then a rest. So it's really kind of interval weight training there, which is great, and it absolutely does increase your strength, and you absolutely do need strength to do the test. But I would very highly recommend doing some supersets in there, which is basically doing slightly lower weight without breaks in between sets. So you literally go from one thing to another, full body workout if possible. That's going to be kind of a key that has really helped me out. And then on the flip side, if you're a very well-accomplished endurance athlete, you're going to definitely want to work on your strength, especially your upper body, your shoulders, your back. That's all very, very important, right? So when I was doing the test, there was one of my co-testers was actually a very avid marathon runner, has done a lot of local marathons, 5Ks, very into the endurance side of things, running, but wasn't actually able to complete the test, not because of a lack of gas in the tank, but because of the frankly rather immense strength that it does take to be able to complete the test. He just didn't have it. Wasn't able to, just carry that weight on him the whole time. He's a pretty lightweight guy. Just didn't have that muscle mass, that kind of strength and grit to push through in terms of the ability to actually just hold the weight. I believe he failed at the section where you have to push the ladder up basically to the ceiling. He just didn't have that kind of deltoid, that shoulder strength to get that up to the ceiling. So yeah, the best advice I can give you is to be as well-rounded as possible. Don't go in this after training, 4 years as a power lifter. Don't go in this after 4 years of training as an ultra marathon runner either. Find that balance where you have strength, you have the cardio endurance and the muscular endurance, because it's not just your heart rate, it's how much can your muscles move without wearing out and totally depleting those glycogen reserves, that sugar in your muscles there that gives you that energy. CrossFit is a big deal. That's something that the firefighter community has really, really pushed themselves into, and that's become a staple type of workout instead of just doing kind of the Arnold Schwarzenegger, chest, lats, legs. Really getting in there, the functional strength is incredibly important, and being able to carry that strength and intensity throughout the testing there. And if you do that, there's no doubt in my mind that you'll be able to go in there and get this accomplished. So if I were you, what I would recommend doing now is kind of alternating your workout style. So I would have one day where you work on strength, one day where you work on strictly cardio, and then a third day where you work on kind of that combination. So let's say that first day where you're working on the strength, I would focus on things that are very functional, right? So things like deadlifts, where you have to pick up weight. That's going to work your back, that's going to work your legs and your grip, which is very, very important. Bench press is very important. Squats, lat pull downs, pull-ups, military press, all those basic, kind of muscle building exercises that cover large groups of muscles. The bigger the muscle, the more benefit it's going to give you. So obviously squats, you have your quads, your glutes, your lower back and all that, your lats, shoulders, your pecs. Those large muscles are going to really give you the most strength. So working them, obviously, is going to give you a huge benefit rather than doing, say, curls and expecting to, gain a huge amount of muscle mass anywhere other than just your bicep. Work on those full muscle group workouts. Again, pull-ups, you're working your forearms, your biceps, your shoulders, and your back, right? So that's one pulling motion that's going to work a lot of muscles. Bench press, you're working your shoulders, your triceps, your chest. Squat, you're working your hamstrings a little bit, you're working your quads, you're working your glutes and your lower back, your calf, your stabilizer muscles. Things like that are really going to help build that solid foundation where you can really just start to put on a little bit of muscle mass, a little bit of weight, and get to it. Second day, cardio would be running, right? Go for a swim, do some cycling. A lot of people, don't have a bike. Some people don't like running. Find something that works for you where you're keeping your heart rate about at 150 beats per minute, right? So if you have a heart rate monitor, if you can keep it there for 30, 45 minutes, every third day would dramatically help you out. That's going to just keep your heart pumping at that sort of, right at that threshold before it starts to really exhaust you, right? So 150 beats per minute is generally the accepted. You're building an aerobic base, right? So that's how you're going to kind of increase your general endurance. And again, I'm not an expert. This is just kind of what I did to get through the system and pass the test. And it worked really well for me. So we talked about the strength day. This is the first day. The The cardio day where it's running, it's just an endurance athlete mentality. You're just going for it, keeping that heart rate high without maxing out, but just keeping it consistently high for 30 to 45 minutes on that second day. And then on the third day, try to do something that's sort of both, right? So you're going to be doing something like rowing, where you're going to be using those pulling muscles, right, on the row machine. Maybe doing sprint intervals on the bike, sprint intervals, running as fast as you can for a short period of time, slowing up, sprinting again and slowing up, getting that heart rate to kind of modulate. So you're going to want to go up to your threshold and then back down, and up to your threshold and then back down without really resting. CrossFit is a great example of this. So you do have the period where you're walking to and from the different, workout stations, right? So you have your burpees, you have your kick up pull ups, your dumbbell lateral raises, all of that, kind of one after the other, sort of that superset mentality. If you do that, maybe have a rest day or two in between and then keep it going and just stay consistent. That is absolutely the key, or at least it was the key for me. And I went from somebody who was, in generally good shape to somebody who, frankly, very easily got the CPAT test completed. It's not the hardest test in the world, but it is definitely easy to underestimate. And I did see probably a good half to 3/4 of the people who I tested with not make it, just because they weren't ready. They were like, I played football in high school. I'm a pretty athletic guy, but they just didn't have what it takes to actually complete the test. Unfortunately, because it's such a specific thing. So, I do encourage you to do some more research, watch the whole video, maybe simulate the video while you're watching it. Try to maybe carry some weight around with you. Do some exercises that sort of simulate that specific the specific test, and you'll have no problem. I would give your body at least 6 months of just rigorous and very, very consistent training to get ready, though. It's so important that you're consistent with it and you're putting in good effort. By the end of each workout, you should be like, okay, I put in the work. You shouldn't be ready for more. You should have ended the workout and been like, all right, I am done. I'm ready for a big meal. And that should be the end of it. So as far as the activity, that's what I would recommend. And I do plan on later uploading an episode of this podcast where I give you a very, very specific follow-along workout plan. Because I know if you're not super into it, if working out is new to you, if it's not something, if you need instruction, I'm comfortable giving that. So I'd love to upload a video later on and a podcast on iTunes later on that has a more specific follow along. Put me in your ear while you're doing your workout, and we'll kind of go through that together. So that's kind of the physical aspect of it. And I mentioned the mentality, the mental aspect, where you do have to just say, okay, I've got this, I've trained for it. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt. You're going to feel like stopping, but just don't. Because at the end of the day, if you have that mentality while you're out in the field, you're going to save more lives. You're going to extinguish those fires and help in those, first responder moments that are incredibly vital. So if you don't have that, you have to figure out a way to harness that mentality, or maybe, look elsewhere for a career, because you really do need to have that I can push through it mentality. There's just no other way of putting it. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about the recovery. I highly, highly recommend cutting back on the alcohol, cutting back on the smoking, the junk food. Keeping your body as clean as possible will help so much with you. I was never an alcoholic or a heavy drinker, but I'd have a beer or two here and there, almost every day. It's just kind of part of the culture where I was living at the time. But I realized during exercise, it really, really lowered my performance, and it absolutely actually raised my recovery time, rather, would probably be a better way of putting it. So eating healthy, keeping your body, your lungs, your liver, your stomach clean will so dramatically improve your physical performance, and it will actively aid your recovery, right? So a big part of becoming more fit, of course, I would say the biggest part is putting in the work and actually doing the workout. But the recovery time is something that I feel like a lot of people just kind of forget about, right? So you have to make sure that you're getting adequate carbs, adequate calories rather, So you're fueling your body enough to go into the workout and fueling it enough to recover. So calories are very, very important. It's something that varies dramatically from person to person. The average person is about, 2,000 calories a day. That's kind of the standard recommended by the FDA of how much you should be intaking. I would recommend, if you are training vigorously to become a firefighter and you're wanting to get through that, the CPAT, and wanting to put on some muscle, wanting to really get the most out of it, try upping that to 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day. It's going to be a lot of food at first, but your metabolism will be so high it won't feel like it's very hard to eat that much. So you need to fuel your body. Absolutely, you're going to want adequate protein as well, whether it's supplementation through powder or lean proteins. I'm basically on effectively a completely plant-based routine and diet right now. So I get all my protein and calories through plants, and it's worked really well for my body. Definitely test yourself out, see what works, see what doesn't. If you eat a big meal and you feel really spacey, you eat a giant plate of spaghetti and you just feel out of it for a couple of hours, probably not going to be something that's that great for you. Try to do something where after you eat it, you feel good, you feel energized, even if you're full. You shouldn't feel spacey. You shouldn't feel like you just took a bunch of Advil or rather some NyQuil. You should feel totally with it. And that's kind of my key. Try to be able to trace everything back to an animal or something that grew out of the ground, a plant. I would highly avoid the processed stuff, avoid stuff that's high in sugar. If you're putting something into your body, it literally becomes you. So nutrition is super, super key. As far as protein goes, I would recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight a day. So if you weigh 175 pounds, try to intake 175 grams a day of protein to adequately build and repair those muscles, because the protein is the building block for muscles and for your tendons and all your connecting tissues and everything. It's really important. So yeah, nutrition is absolutely key. I've had a huge difference in my personal outcomes on the same workout plan by adjusting my nutritionist to be higher protein, higher calorie, and then, way less processed crap, basically. So just stuff that grows right out of the ground, and is processed as little as possible. Low sugar. That's made a huge, huge, benefit for me. So that's something that I absolutely recommend. I can't recommend it enough. So those are my tips on passing the CPAT and how to ready yourself and prepare for it. In summary, do the work, recover, take care of yourself, and just be ready. Get yourself plenty of time, and you'll absolutely make it. So that's all I have for you folks today. Thanks so much for tuning in again, friends, and let me know in the comments or reach out to me if you'd like to have anything else touched on, if you need an explanation or just want to connect. I'm happy to help you out, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.